Republicans are rude and should be removed and act like they're imbeciles. I say, Malcolm Nance, Trump is under Putin's control. We can dance while Stephanie dances with the pole. Well, it's the Malcolm Nance. It's the Malcolm Nance. Well, it's the Malcolm Nance.
Oh, hello, Senior Chief. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Glad to see you.
Good. I was just handed this. Kremlin says Prigozhin plane may have been downed on purpose. What?
You don't say.
That's your shocked face. Malcolm.
No, that's my shocked face.
Yeah, that happened like right after we signed off with you last
Yeah.
week.
What? I thought that was just an unfortunate coincidence,
that's
as you would
amazing.
say.
I can't believe that happened. I come off like Severus Snape on this particular issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Kremlin's admitting it, though, huh? I see. The Kremlin said Wednesday investigators were considering the possibility that the plane carrying Prigozhin was downed on purpose. I see. Their first explicit acknowledgement that he may have been, wait for it, assassinated.
You know, on my Substack last week, I wrote the follow-up. I had done 3 Prigozhin mutiny Substacks and videos. And last week, it was called the Prigozhin Explosion. And look, is it possible he was assassinated? Well, first, we had indications there were surface-to-air missiles that may have been used, or a bomb. So whatever happened, he's dead.
Yeah.
And PMC Wagner's being spread to the wind. And my favorite part that tells you where this is going is that all of the PMC Wagner mercenary cemeteries are being bulldozed, literally bulldozed, memorials and signs taken down and covered over with concrete. Putin is doing an absolute Stalinist job of erasing that there ever was an organization called PMC Wagner. And they're blocking cemeteries in St. Petersburg so Prigozhin can't be burned either.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Although I will say about Prigozhin, that guy also, because he interfered in 2016, as you wrote in your book. So he was also part of that whole thing. So, the latest news this morning, Malcolm, you probably heard, I'm sure, Russian officials accuse Ukraine of launching what appeared to be the biggest nighttime drone attack on Russian soil since the war began. The Kremlin's forces also hit Kyiv during the night with what Ukrainian officials called a massive combined attack that killed 2 people. Just give us, from your point of view, an update on what's happening in Ukraine and what the future holds, you think.
Sure. Well, first, I have an article coming out here in the next week on Substack. And the reason that I haven't been talking about it or writing about it is quite simple. I was briefed on major parts of the counteroffensive before the counteroffensive launched. So people have been asking me all summer, how come you're not writing about this? Because I didn't want to endanger what was going on. The big problem with the Ukrainian counteroffensive is I took part in last year's massively successful counteroffensive that took back all of Kharkiv province, 6 cities, 300 villages in 72 hours. People have been led to believe, or now believing, that's what should have happened here. There should have been this giant blitz, what we call a sledgehammer on glass effect, and they should have broken the Russians and taken back all these places. That was not the strategy. The strategy was 6 to 8 equivalent of 50-ton metal presses pressing down on a steel girder, and that all of those pressure points along that girder would shatter the girder and break it in various places, allowing for breakouts to go through.
Yeah.
So they spent the first part of the summer destroying enemy air defense, getting more munitions from the United States to root out the Russians in their trenches, demining, because the Russians had placed almost 1 million mines out there. And now we're starting to see the pressure points break on that iron girder, particularly down in the direction in Zaporizhia near the city of Tokmak, which will break Russian forces in half. It will split Russian army south and north and then the Ukrainians will start having multiple breakouts.
Yeah. Malcolm, were you struck? I was waiting to ask you about the Republican debate. I don't know if you watched it, but, Nikki Haley and Chris Christie and others said all the right things about Putin, about, Ukraine. But not one of them on that stage mentioned that they attacked the United States of America in 2016 because they helped Trump and Republicans. So they will never, it is just interesting, the whole selective memory on that side, right? Where, and that's why they're even split on Russia and whether we should help Ukraine, right? And we don't have, two parties to me that are fully American or pro-democracy.
Well, that's because the litmus test to 2024 is your loyalty to Trump between 2016 and whatever comes in the future. If he says he loves Putin, he loves Kim Jong-il, he hates America, burn the Constitution, they will say that eventually. Look, everyone on that stage, with the exception of Christie and I can't recall who the other person, said they would vote for Trump if he's the nominee.
Yeah.
Let's not fool ourselves. He will be the nominee. And he will be Vivek, Ramaswamy times 100 this time around. He will swear off all aid to Ukraine. He will collapse NATO if he can. He will pull U.S. forces out of there, and he will turn Eastern Europe over to the Russians. Now, here's where I get a little sanguine, which could quite literally lead to World War III, with the United States not participating. The only thing that we have to benefit here is the Ukrainians, using 3% of the American defense budget, are destroying almost 90% of the Russian armed forces. Poland's Boy Scouts could beat Russia in a future war. But Donald Trump and his loyalists, to be part of Trump world, you must be a sycophant to whatever Donald Trump believes, even if it destroys 70 years of how America defended liberal democracy throughout the world. He's a fascist. They are fascists. I don't believe a word they say.
Yeah. We were mentioning this story, but when you talk about when you get Shouty McShoutface about what a second Trump term would be, this story, with more than a year to go before the 2024 election, a constellation of conservative organizations preparing for a possible second White House term for Trump. Recruiting thousands of Americans to come to Washington on a mission to dismantle the federal government and replace it with a vision closer to his own, led by, of course, Heritage Foundation, all these wackadoos. The far-reaching effort is essentially a government in waiting for the former president's second term or any candidate who aligns with their ideals and can defeat Biden. They're talking about blowing up, quote-unquote, the whole deep state. I was saying we were talking about, rumors of Russian money with Vivek Ramaswamy. And I was like, I wouldn't be surprised because he's another chaos agent. Yeah. He's another mini Trump, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a financial fraud. He worked in the market and made a fake Alzheimer's medicine, right? That was already thoroughly debunked and made $1 billion off of hyping it up and short selling the promise of an Alzheimer's medicine. This man will sell anyone down the street. The very fact that he was stealing the words of Barack Obama and using them against Democrats. Yeah. He's auditioning for vice president. He's not going to get it, but he'll definitely get a cabinet position.
Aye.
The fact that the Republicans are now, the Trump Republicans, the Trumpicans, are now planning and have been planning for the last 6 months to create a government in waiting. It's the alternate elector scheme all over again.
Yeah.
There was a good comment on Twitter the other day that if Trump wins this election, it will be the last American election. Now, I don't say that as a joke.
Yeah.
I say that as an intelligence professional. I've written several books about it, and now we're getting to the point where these guys are starting to arm themselves again. You have Sarah Palin, caterwauling and wailing like a bleached cat for civil war. And we need to take the defense of American democracy seriously.
Yeah.
And did I point out we're 1 year from this election? Okay, 1 year. And don't think that a lot of horrible things can happen and that the Republicans will vote for a convicted felon who could possibly be in jail for him to come in and sledgehammer smash all of American democracy. to install a dictator.
I'm not sure you're aware you wrote a book called They Want to Kill Americans. However, we were just saying, who's the latest guy today in Georgia government that said, openly said, if Brian Kemp doesn't shut Fani Willis down, civil war. I don't want to draw my rifle, but I will. He said it on TV or radio. I can't remember where, but
state senator.
Yeah,
as a state senator. Listen, I'm sorry. I don't hawk my books enough. If you haven't read They Want to Kill Americans, you are behind.
I think you barely
curve.
ever even mentioned them, Malcolm.
Well, I mean, you mention it more than I do. Jeez. No, you're behind the power curve on what these people are thinking.
Yeah.
Okay? And I read the dang book. It's different from writing it. It's terrified me.
Yeah.
And worst part is, it was a year ago that book was finished, and it was written the year before after January 6th, and it's only gotten worse. None of the things that I thought would mitigate these people has happened. They have embraced QAnon openly now. You can't be Marjorie Taylor Greene, the QAnon candidate. She is like their icon. She's vying to be vice president, along with Carrie Lake. Listen, we are standing into danger. And you as your listeners, I know you're on it all day, but they need to take it seriously.
Yeah.
Definitely seriously.
America, you in danger, girl. That should be your next book, America, you in danger, girl. I'm just saying. I'm spitballing with
It
you.
won't come out. The way the Chinese publishers are putting books out in 2 years, it won't come out before the election.
Yeah.
It'll have been a nice documentary like Idiocracy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
All
God.
right. All right. Be careful, sailor. We love you. See you next
Thanks,
week.
Malcolm.
There he goes.
Bye-bye.
46